Board of Selectmen, if you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, a little bit of a late start here, but new announcements, anything from the board? The only thing I've got is John Sylvester gave me a call. He is trying to organize a meeting of the RSU towns, Boards of Selectmen, for 4 o'clock Monday at the Alfred Town Hall. If anybody can make it, I want to talk about the 6 boards basically coming up with a statement or position on the RSU budget process from an increase perspective.
What's this?
So this would be only the 6 RSU 57 towns, Boards of Selectmen, 4 p.m. Monday, February 1st, right, at the Alfred Board of Selectmen's, or Alfred Town Hall, Alfred Selectmen's office. So anybody that can make it, put it on your calendar. If you can, fine. If not, we'll see if we can get at least one of us there, maybe a couple. All right? Maybe Cindy would come back for that. Okay. That being said, we do have a workshop with our attorney with regard to TIF, or TIFs, I should say. So I'm going to turn it over to Ken and let him do the talking. We do have a bunch of paperwork to follow through here, so I'll follow along with.
Easier for you?
That's good, yeah. David loves it when you're up to the microphone, so.
I'll try to be good. TIFs are an acronym for Tax Increment Financing. Basically, what happened in about 1987, Tax Reform Act, they did away with what you may have heard were called industrial revenue bonds, which for years were a way of providing no interest tax or low interest tax-free financing for commercial development. What they basically did in the old days, which is again 20 plus years ago, was there was a fictional conveyance of the property, such as the Pratt Whitney plant in South Berwick, to the municipality, which then turned around and leased it right back to them for basically $1 and financed it, so that way it could be tax-free financing as a part of the deal. When Congress cleaned up all sorts of stuff in terms of the Tax Reform Act of '87, one of the things they did was clean that up, leaving municipalities for a while without any way really to provide a benefit to industry or for commercial development. What was devised were tax increment financing, which basically is a method by which it's still taxable. The town collects the tax on the particular development, but it can book that tax money in a number of ways. One of which is for public improvements, i.e. to add a turning lane or put in granite curbing or install sewer or water, things of that sort that might benefit the particular development using the actual tax dollars that that development generates. Or the other method that you see quite often, I represented Saco, for example, on the Saco Island redevelopment, is a credit enhancement agreement, and there those same tax dollars, instead of going back to the town, pass through the town and to an ultimate creditor, so that the developer can actually go out and get low interest guaranteed money to redevelop something, because they know that you, the municipality, are going to collect the taxes and you're going to pass them through to the actual lender who's financing the construction. So it's almost circular in that construction that you have then financed with those tax dollars generates more tax dollars, which again comes back through the process to pay for the redevelopment. The reason to do it, there are a number. I gave you a memo on it and I don't want to get lost in the detail here, there are any number of restrictions. It has to basically be a blighted area, so-called, which means basically the 25% at least of the property needs some type of redevelopment. It has to be generally for commercial industrial development. They did make one exception in the last session of the legislature for certain low-income housing, but generally it has nothing to do with residential property. It's almost all to do with industrial or office or commercial property. You can only have so much of the town put into it. You can only have so much of evaluation put into it. There has to be a development plan that has to initially be adopted by the town's legislative body, which in this instance is you, because town meeting has fiscal authority but not legislative authority. That has to be approved by the DECD, the Department of Economic and Community Development in Augusta. They then also have to approve whatever the final TIF plan is, which is the second thing that gets adopted. Basically, what they come down to is an inducement to somebody to do commercial development in town, and or your own inducement to develop an office park or an industrial park. So that what you're doing is taking a bunch of tax dollars that are being generated, putting them into a special account, which is authorized by both the IRS and Maine statute, and then those dollars are being used to either take care of public improvements or to pay something as a contribution toward the development that's occurring there. They don't have to be 100%, they can be mixed. It can be a piece of this goes to that, a piece to another. That's usually a subject of negotiation depending on the particular project. But those dollars are set aside. The inducement to do that, and that's what we get into here when we talked about the whole issue of tax shift. The inducement to do that is if you get an extra $100,000 in tax revenue, the state of Maine and the county take a good 40 to 50% of those $100,000. They go back through you to Augusta. If you have a TIF, it's off book. It's off book for LD1, it's off book for the state, it's off book for county. So all those dollars go into that account. Yes, they don't go against the general tax revenue, so in the sense, yes, you could get more money potentially by simply not having the TIF, but you pay so much more to other third-party tax revenue if you did. So the inducement again is that you get to keep all the money and that you can use it for that particular development, which again, the typical TIF agreement is a development plan is usually 20 years, it can be as long as 30. So the thought is that at the end of that term, 20 years or shorter if it was negotiated, it goes away, at which point you have all that additional development that you've helped fund, and you collect all those additional dollars, which do then go to the bottom line, to the general revenue, and do help defray taxes generally in the municipality. So it is a method, basically, an acronym for a method, by which you can use tax dollars generated in a particular area of the town to either enhance development in that area for commercial and industrial purposes, or help fund those developments actually directly, and do it in a way that the municipality gets to keep the money. Every session of the legislature, there's a fight about this, because all those dollars that go off book, if you look at them as a whole, probably 80+% of them are in southern Maine. You know, 50 million in Saco. I did Bath's BIW expansion, which was like 400 million. All those got off book. So in a sense, northern Maine, or interior Maine, which is not really taking advantage of this, is losing. And that's why there's usually a legislative fight about how much you can do with this. And the whole issue that comes up every time, both in terms of how you can use it, how much you can use it, and certain other things. As you know, there's also the state has its own income tax credit for certain equipment and other reinvestment. And there's been a fight every 2 years about is that in essence double dipping? Should you be allowed to do both if you're a business? So this exists now. I can only tell you it gets tweaked at every session of the legislature. My suspicion is it will continue to exist because it's been very successful in developing a lot of property that needed redevelopment or actually enhancing development in southern Maine. And without any other way that Maine can really compete in the marketplace, given our tax structure, this is pretty much what we have out there to offer to business and industry. So that's it in an overview. You can go on as much as you want, but I don't want to bore you with it either.
With the TIF districts, when the legislation tweaks, are those other districts grandfathered?
But once they've got approval, yes, almost invariably, because typically there's some kind of a contract involved. So the legislature can't, both by the Maine Constitution and the federal, they can't change the terms of existing contracts. So yes, absolutely.
Ken, what direct effect does the TIF have on property tax relief for a homeowner?
Basically none, to be honest with you. Indirectly, no direct, I guess, I have to go back to that, no real direct, but indirectly, yes, in that it over time allows a municipality like Waterboro to begin to broaden from a residential tax base to more industrial commercial. But the direct benefit that they will see may be as much as 15, 20 years down the road. It also, the other thing that obviously does is indirect in it, but in this current economy is important, which is job creation. It does, in fact, lead to business and development and growth in your community. And there's a tendency, obviously, to create jobs in your community as a result of it. But in terms of going to the bottom line of a particular taxpayer, it really doesn't immediately do that. It's much more of an indirect impact.
It's a long-term investment.
Right. But you're not really losing either. And your question's a good one, because I've had this come up many times. They always say, well, if we're getting to a TIF account, that means I don't have that $100,000 to use generally in the town, and therefore, if I have to pay for road improvements and it costs me that same $100,000, doesn't that really mean that I'm raising taxes on everybody else? And the answer generally is no, if it's done properly, which is that you're keeping that much more dollars of the new tax dollars that you're generating here, and what you have to do is budget accordingly so that the roads that are being improved or the infrastructure that's being put in balances out against that same TIF account that you might otherwise have used general funds for, so that you're not impacting taxes negatively, but it does require some attention to the
Planning.
fine line.
Some planning.
Yes, some definite planning.
So we could designate or develop an industrial park, say,
Yeah.
and reduce the value of the land of that park to induce businesses to come in, and yet put this TIF on in that area, which in a way, which would help us with the roads and the and other infrastructure in there.
Yes.
Now that
That's a
takes
slippery
the money away from schools and county, right?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope in the sense, John. Because it's tax increment financing, you have to generate the tax dollars. So, yes, you can designate a particular development area as an industrial park, but unless you've got a potential user up front, you're not going to generate any excess tax dollars from that area, because you start at base. Base zero is whenever you start it. We were talking about the doomsday date, the April 1 date, in terms of the tree growth penalty. The same thing is true with the TIF. You start with a particular April 1 date, and they treat that as a zero date, and it's the increment above that in value and the taxes that are generated from that increase in value that you're using. So you really don't have anything up front if you just designate a site. You really have to designate a site, spend some money up front, plan the site, and try to induce someone to come into that site. And then you can negotiate with them that the incremental tax increase on that area, which doesn't have to be just 2 acres, it can be 250 or whatever you want it to be, will be used for their benefit in one way or another, either to upgrade the infrastructure and roads there or to help pay for or underwrite the construction costs involved for the particular development itself. So the dollars don't appear immediately, and you basically still have to go out and encourage somebody to develop, but it allows you to take and use the money that they generate for their own benefit. And that's what the typical business likes. They're generating a lot of more tax dollars for you. They don't want you to put it in your pocket to build whatever. They want to think that most of it's coming back to them. And you don't have to give them 100%. You can give them 50%. I think Portland generally will not, for example, give more than 50%. And a lot of towns do that. But if in Saco, because of, again, trying to get Saco Island redeveloped, obviously that was, I think that finally ended up 90%. They tried to get 100 and it got negotiated to 90.
So let me just walk through this. Let's talk about Saco Island for a minute.
Yep.
The cost of improvements, this whole TIF process, cost improvements will be in essence defrayed or subsidized by this tax coming back through the system to pay for,
Right.
okay.
The
To pay
tax
for the-
dollars, which are
So
over a period of time, the tax dollars to be generated approximately.
So the company that goes
Right.
in, let's assume it's one company goes
Yep.
in, they're gonna still pay that tax.
Correct.
However, that tax is gonna find its way back to help either finance or defray
Right.
the cost of improvements on that site.
Yeah, basically, if you think of it as somebody has a site that's going to cost them $50 million to redevelop, they don't have it up front, they go borrow it, they're going to pay it back, but they can either pay it back out of revenues, which in that instance are commercial rents,
Right.
or they can pay it back in some other way. What a TIF does is they're paying it back through their own taxes. So they pay taxes to the city of Saco for the incremental increase in value from their redevelopment of that property. And over that period of time, 30 years plus, those taxes go back out to the lender. So that it comes around in a full circle, that basically their own tax dollars generated by the improvements are what are paying off the lender that gave the money to make those improvements. So
So unless you have someone to start with, this isn't something that you just go off and do and say, well.
To a
we-
chunk of property, you
right,
do
right.
it to a person, for a person.
Or
If you had an old factory in town or whatever, and.
But
or
you can
whatever.
start the process by basically looking for an area that would be appropriate for an industrial park or a commercial office park or something else, and starting the rezoning process by, it's not a zoning, but it's similar to that, by coming up with the development district and defining it and adopting that, so that something is in place for you to induce people. And then you deal with the commercial brokers and the other people who might be out there looking for an appropriate site, and you can take advantage of using this statute.
So you predefine the TIF zone.
Yes, it's a two-step thing. Basically, you rezone something, that's the development district, and it doesn't change the uses, but it just says this is where we want these particular concessions to be applicable, and then you negotiate particular tax increment financing with the user, or by simply designating the development district. Whatever happens in that district will give you those incremental dollars, which you can then use to upgrade your industrial park. And I've seen it done where you designate an area where you don't have your industry really yet, but you might have some other type of development that's going to generate a lot of dollars, and you kind of put that into the boundaries of your development district so that you get those dollars coming in the door that you can then start to use for economic development purposes. You can actually use them, I'm not suggesting it, to hire an economic development director. You can, and I've seen a number of municipalities designate their planner, for example, as planner/economic development director, and pay for half the cost that way. I mean, there are ways that you can use those dollars once they start coming in, generally. The statute generally wants you to use that specifically in the district, but there are general applications that you can make, and one of those is similar to that, the actual economic development planning.
So if you designate an area as a TIF district, let's say we were going to do an industrial park, we'll
Right.
just go with that theme. you designate that as a TIF district, and you have your zoning in place for that. And then you have, let's say, 10 businesses that are going to come into that TIF district. They all, it's the same for each business, or do you can
You-
negotiate individual businesses, so you have
Right.
different contracts within that district?
Absolutely, you can negotiate
Okay.
each one, and each one you negotiate has to go up to DECD. They have to bless it. They have to be, it's Big Brother being sure you don't give the store
So
away for the
it
wrong
doesn't matter
reason.
that, we'll say the first one in gets, we'll say a 90%
Right.
reimbursement. That doesn't force you to give everybody 90%.
Correct. The next one could be-
Everyone is an individual deal.
Right, you may, first one in may have generated, truly intensive job use, and you really wanted it. The next one may be, something where it's a nice industrial building, but it's much more automated, there's very little job development out of it, you get a lot of tax dollars. So you may give them a much less of a subsidy involved. And basically, you're just using the taxes that they generate to either pay for public infrastructure or to help defray the cost of the redevelopment itself. So the trick is to find the right side in town where you think that would be attractive to people who want to redevelop, but also when you're doing that, to kind of look at what else is available surrounding that might start almost immediately generating some incremental tax difference that you can start booking to use basically to pay for the initial planning to try to structure this thing.
Tom is on top of this.
Yeah, he and I had a lot of discussions about it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's something that really takes some, like I said, a lot of thought and planning, and, I mean, there's
Gives us
the
flexibility.
bottom line, it's not something that we just, well, gee, that sounds good, let's go do that, right? I mean, it really takes a lot of planning and thought,
And a lot of explaining, because even though you have the legislative authority to develop the incremental district, when you initially structure it for the start committing the tax dollars, that's still going to go to town meeting. So you're going to have to, you can start to put it in place, you can negotiate any credit enhancement agreement, you can establish the actual development district, but you still have to, at some point, explain to town meeting why you're setting up this account and putting a bunch of money into it and how it's getting there.
Does the TIF money that's generated have to roll back into that particular industrial park, or can you use the funds derived from one park to maybe establish another park in another location of the town?
You can use it indirectly, like, again, for the planner and the sort of soft cost type things, but you can't use it, for example, to build the roads, that type of thing. You would have to designate that area as another development district and start the whole process again, is how it works. There are some exceptions to that. Basically, they relate to environmental cleanup, you might be able to use dollars here, elsewhere, if you could show that cleanup, or certain traffic improvements as well, if you can show that those type of improvements outside of the district will actually enhance the district. It's just
So-
basically connecting them.
you kind of cover that in your last statement
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
With pretty good synopsis
Right, I
of
think I gave you a bunch of details.
funding and economic development
Exactly.
programs,
Yep.
cost of funding environmental improvement projects, funding establishment, cost
much.
of services to provide skills and development.
It's pretty much soft cost type things. Otherwise, you really have to show somehow that what you're doing enhances the district itself.
So you could use it for law enforcement and fire protection as
Interestingly-
it relates to that.
And that's a very good question. You can't. There's a big fight that's been going on at DECD for a while, where towns have tried to use TIF dollars to build new fire stations. And they've basically said no. They've said, to the extent that it's a typical function that the town would otherwise provide, you can't use these dollars for it. So you can't add police, you can't build a fire station, which, a very good question, because that's one of those areas where people were trying to push into, and they're not allowing it. And for a while there, you could up till about 6 years ago, you could use some of the TIF dollars in the district for recreational enhancement. And they said no to that now, too. So they've tried to narrow it down to just economic development, basically with a narrow exception for environmental, and again, because of this affordable housing push, an example for that. And I don't know, my recollection is it's so difficult to fit within the particular peg holes that are required to fall through, to use that I don't know that anybody's done it yet.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I was saying, I could hear some deep sigh.
So-
You made mention of zoning changes to create a TIF district.
Well, to have the development plan, you've got to have it properly zoned. In other words, if you want an industrial park or office park or whatever, you might have to take the site and actually rezone it, yes.
Well, towns like Waterboro, who are, stretched to their limit of financial dollars right now, I do not believe the town of Waterboro in the foreseeable future would have $500,000 or $1 million to secure a piece of land and then do the infrastructure that it needed to build an industrial park.
Right.
So it's going to be done by a private developer.
Right, so you're just enhancing it through rezoning.
You and I, over the years, have had a conversation about subdivisions, industrial subdivisions without boundaries.
Right.
Because one of the big problems is that once you subdivide something, you have taxes on individual lots, which in a lot of cases turns out to be a very large nut to carry all the time. Do you believe that, one question is, do you believe that there is a legal way to have an industrial subdivision without boundaries? That's the first question. And the second question is, once you create a TIF, can that money go to help another business offset its use in the same business park? Could that money be helped to offset the second business with their expenses?
Sort of yes to both. And the sort of yes is you could, for zoning purposes, you have to define, as you know, a specific site. You
Yes,
can't
I
float.
understand it.
For the development district for a TIF, you must define a specific site. But in terms of do you want to avoid lots, you can avoid lots by setting up some type of a condominium or other related regime where you have an overall site with sort of a master development plan, and instead of a lot, you just simply have an exclusive right to use. The tax bill would go to the particular master development entity, and it would distribute it out to the various sub-entities. I've never seen one, and I'm not sure how well it would work with the TIF, because the problem with the TIF is that you're looking at individual tax bills and the incremental change. It's sort of apples and oranges. It might be a way to do it, Doug, but I've never thought it through.
My thought, Ken, has always been that if you had a subdivision, you did a perimeter, you approved the conceptual use of it, and then, as part of the subdivision plan, you included your site development law into it. And when they went for site development, they would actually determine the lot lines, because with the environmental regs that we got today, you can have so much environmental area that needs to be set aside for drainage and stuff like that. You can take a building that would set on a 1 acre lot and need another acre just to take care of the underground drainage and stuff like that. So to set up lots today is a very, very risky business, because when a guy comes along, he says, I want to put a 20,000 square foot building on this 80,000 square foot lot. Time he gets packing, septic tank, he doesn't have room enough for his drainage, so.
But you could do it, yeah, it's almost like a cluster residential development where you have a vast amount of common space around it, which you could reserve for parking or for drainage or
So
for
the
whatever.
zone, I guess, to that extent, the zone should not necessarily be contained through a specific set of lots, basically, right? I mean, you really have to,
I've always thought if you could do a perimeter survey and get a conceptual approval for industrial properties, then use your site law to set up the actual boundary lots, and at that point, you would create a taxable piece of property.
well, I think what you're saying, if I understand this right, you could do, because your TIF district would be that peripheral
Right.
zone, right? And then what happens inside of that, there's some very specifics that would have to go with that.
And you are technically taking the money from the first user to help the second, because unless you're giving the first user 100% of his money, if you gave him 50% of that excess is going to go into the TIF fund, which you can then use to either help provide infrastructure for the second user, or any number of other ways of
But
helping
that
defer costs.
second user, then their tax payment ultimately goes back into that TIF fund. right?
Exactly, it comes back and as long as you're not committing 100%, you're always going to end up with excess that the town will be holding that it can use.
I have a question. You said that it couldn't be used for recreational uses.
Right.
In the letter that you gave us, it did say that you could use it for recreational uses outside of the TIF district if it was for, say, recreational trails, bridges, grooming, maintenance, etc. It's on the third page, or the last page that you gave us under improvements
okay.
outside number 6.
That's cost relating to the planning, design, construction, and of the new, determined by the department to have, you notice, potential to promote economic development. In other words, you just can't say, we're going to build a new field or a new this. It's just like, again, water line extension or road improvement. It has to show that it's in some way going to generate an economic development function. I think this comes from some of the stuff that was done. In fact, in this instance, this is a Northern Maine amendment that was put in there to try to help on the growth of the trails, both the hut trails and some of the other stuff in Northern Maine.
I guess I'm thinking of if you're attracting lodging into the communities, it's something that we don't have that we need. You want to attract some lodging into the community, but part of what would benefit the lodging is if you had hiking, biking, outdoor recreational trails or things that would attract people that would then stay at the lodging. Would that?
That's sort of the purpose of this, but I'll tell you, it's a very tough sell. I actually got one approved related in Cumberland to the Twin Brooks, if you've ever been there, they're a big recreational area in the center of town. And it was post that they amended the law to say no recreational use. The one that's in here now only got in, again, I think in the last regular session of the legislature. It was a Northern Maine amendment trying to relate to both snowmobiles, the hot trails and things of that sort, where they're saying, look, we don't get the same kind of economic development as Southern Maine. Ours is much more tourist recreational. We need to look at that. But the emphasis still has to be that it's the key to economic development. You might be able to sell it, I
As
don't know.
determined by the department.
As determined by the department. And I should also tell you that the determination by the department over the last decade has gotten to be much more difficult than it used to be. It's continued to become looked at much more strictly, just because this became much more of a football over that decade.
So they don't have to necessarily legislate on every session with changes. All they need to do is to change the definition that the department uses for.
Or just the emphasis in terms of some of the legislation that may have failed, that there's a concern, so people tend to look a little more strictly because of that. So it's a tough sell, I'll tell you that.
Anything else? Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
As
And
as usual, it's always good to see you.
right, and so you and on Doug's thing, for what it's worth, it's all done on the land trust thing since he brought it up. And all the documents look fine, and we changed the last ones.
I just made this up today.
Everything's in there unless he's changed his mind one more time.
No. I could change my mind to the law. Said we needed that. Is that all right?
All right, thank you, Ken.
Thank you all.
All right, let's go through reports. Nancy?
Are you doing hearing
Oh,
delegation?
Hearing delegation. Correspondence. Reports.
Only thing I want to say is the workshop Saturday was very productive.
Yeah.
Everybody kept focused, and there was a lot done in those 4 hours.
Hopefully, we're going to do another.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do another one.
I think so.
Yeah, and I have everything that came out of the other workshop on Saturday. I made hard copies, so if everybody can take a copy home to make notes on them.
And it's still our intent that Thursday night we will continue on, right? Anything else, Nancy?
You know, that's it.
Anything from the select?
With regard to the marathon session, as we refer to it on Saturday,
Yeah, it's only 4 hours, not quite a
It
marathon.
just felt longer.
the mini marathon, if we could somehow incorporate that into the structure of the board, because I think that one of the things that came out of there was the opportunity for the board to really brainstorm some ideas for long-term, planning and so forth. And it may be nice, irrespective of having a specific goal, which is ironing out the budget, if we had it more generalized in a sense that we just meet for the sake of meeting so that we have that opportunity to get together as a group to, try to really brainstorm. And I thought it was beneficial in that aspect, because we don't always, enjoy that luxury. Most often it's conversations that are taking place between individuals, or we get an email here or an email there, and then we have to try to cram everything into a short meeting. And I just think it would be nice if
I think we kind of just had some discussion as we were kind of leaving the other day, but it may very well be beneficial if we were to schedule, I'm not sure we got to do it monthly, but certainly
quarterly.
every
or-
other month or something, to say, hey, we're going to take a Saturday morning and come in here and spend 4 hours working on specific.
Part of the proposal that John and I put together that the board accepted was to make every last Thursday of the month, every last Tuesday of the month, a workshop so that we could do those kinds of things like just the round table, brainstorming. We might not have a workshop every month that has to do with a particular area, like tree growth penalty or a workshop because of FET or whatnot, but just that last Tuesday night of the month, what John and I envisioned with that was exactly what we did Saturday, an opportunity to just sit, talk, think about things that have come up, and brainstorm and have those opportunities to just talk. It's not something that we get to do as a board, and I agree. I mean, I think we got a lot out of Saturday's meeting. I think that was the most productive thing that this board has done in the past 3 years.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah, I agree with that too. I really enjoyed that meeting Saturday. I can't believe how much we ended up getting done, and like you said, the brainstorming was invaluable.
Yeah, and it's tough to do whether it's the fourth Tuesday or the second, it's tough to do in an evening, because I think there are other things that we have to do on a weekly basis that detract from having.
If you put it into the fifth Tuesday, when we have a fifth Tuesday, is to say, okay, from 5:30 until 9, we're going to have it'll be set aside for this. And then maybe quarterly, you have a Saturday morning. And I'm just wondering if today we want to put something on the new business to set up another Saturday in the next several weeks, because I think we're going to probably need another chunk of time in order to finish this budget.
Well, our goal is to have this done by February 5th, so we don't have but one more Saturday between now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess my put is even though the 5th is the goal, if we were to meet on the 6th and finalize everything so that it could be delivered to the Finance Committee on the Monday that follows that might be a pretty good wrap-up session, even though we might have missed by a day, but we're 2 months ahead of where we were last year, so.
That's what I did, I think maybe we could do that on that after everything's pretty much completed, maybe it would kind of give us a overview of what the budget is that we will be sending to the finance committee, and everybody will be on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, so to John's point, maybe we talk about that as we line
Maybe,
up the week's action items and stuff, so.
I'd move that we add a workshop, setting a workshop day under new business on number 4.
Well, it's, okay. Kind of still old
Tough.
business, but that's fine. Wherever we want to put it.
Oh, it'd be old business?
Yeah, I mean, we're running workshops now, so it's just to schedule an additional workshop, right?
Okay. However you want to do it,
I'll
just
second
we'll
it.
get it done.
Let's put it on number 2 under old business.
Okay.
Any discussion? Moved by John, seconded by Tammy Jo. All those in favor? All right. Okay, that's added to the agenda. Let's keep going. Anything else on Selectmen's report? We're going to forego the fire department's report tonight because they're off
Fighting a fire.
fighting a fire. What did you say it was in Dayton? All right, new business, land trust deed. I think we are ready.
Is this the day?
They are here, I think, unless there's been anything that has changed.
This
You know.
is the final piece. On the back of that, you'll see it says Exhibit B.
Not that one.
Oh, that's the other one, I'm sorry. Exhibit A. And there's an Exhibit B.
There's an Exhibit B somewhere, it's very last page.
Is that the conservation easement? Exhibit B.
This is gonna go, this is just, shows the book and pictures.
This is a blank Exhibit B.
This is,
so you
yeah,
wanna-
this is a, and I stapled them, probably I shouldn't have, but.
Okay?
Dennis, before we take a vote and discuss this any further, I know I've brought this up to the board in the past, and I just want to do it again today because we're looking at signing these. I am an officer of the land trust, and I want to make sure that the rest of the board does not feel that there's a conflict for me to participate in the signing of these deeds.
I see no.
I don't see any conflict. This is not we're talking about a quasi-municipal entity and a municipal entity. I'm not sure how you can have a special interest in
Oh, I
anything or...
want to make sure that, I'm upfront about
Well, I
that.
mean, I don't see any tie to any personal gain in this. So that's the major definition of conflict of interest, is personal gain.
Yep. The board should take a vote, like Nancy said, just to express that the board does not feel that I have a conflict of interest.
I'll move to accept Tammy Jo as a part of this decision.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that Tammy Jo will participate in this decision process. Taking a little liberty of what the motion was. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's a 3 vote. I would presume an abstention.
I'll abstain
because
from
you're-
that one, yeah.
All right. So here we are. We've got everything I think that we need in front of us. It's been reviewed by our illustrious attorney who made that comment on his way out tonight. So what is your pleasure?
I move that we convey the property to the land trust.
Second? You want to second that?
Uh,
Or, you don't have to, I'm just...
Well, are we doing that with the motion, or is the motion that we sign
We
these
sign the
documents?
right, we signed the documents.
Right, I'll second.
All right, any discussion relative to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Done.
Dennis?
Yep.
Excuse me, but I got a letter here that says the order in which he's got to be signed.
The what?
The order. They have to be signed in a specific order. And they have to be recorded in a specific order.
Okay.
The quitclaim deed with covenant from the town to the land trust has to be signed first.
Yep. Got that in the folder first. Whether that matters, I'm not sure, but
Can we do that right now, maybe?
Then the conservation
Make
easement
sure we do it right.
has to be signed,
yep.
and then the assignment of the lease is signed last.
It makes sense, I understand why it would have to be done.
Yeah,
that
I
way.
understand how it works.
Oh,
You
I
can't
guess so
sign
that-
something over until you have it.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion to sign those in order right
Well,
now, publicly, or?
Yeah, I would guess that'll make it clean, right? So was a motion to sign the quitclaim deeds, we already did that. So now, in a motion to sign the conservation easement and right of first refusal on the property of the Waterboro Land Trust.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That passes. Lastly, it would be a vote for the assignment of the lease, which would be that the
To the
the
tower.
lease to the tower would be assigned over to the land trust. The lease arrangement, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah, that's moved.
moved by Gordon, second by John. Any discussion? All those in favor? So for the record, that was the process that we used, all right? And I guess we can pass these around and sign them. We only have one copy to sign, right? So we're gonna have to get a... Why is there not 5 spots, or at least 4 here?
I believe all he has to sign is the chairman.
Don't let the power go to your head.
How?
And the
Okay,
The second one, you and I have to both sign it. I have to sign it first.
your name is, yep. Your signature is there, and my signature's on the other page, so,
So, you have to sign this first.
yeah, well, guess what? You better be signing fast. You better be signing fast.
Well, Bob Fay, you got this thing started about, what, 4 or 5 years ago?
Bob's smiling down, tickled pink right about now.
These have all got to be witnessed and notarized, so I'm presuming that, Nancy, you can witness them, right?
I can notarize them, and then we can have somebody witness them.
Yeah, hang on, we
You
got the
watching,
other,
Bob?
there's the quitclaim deed there, and this is the assignment of the lease.
Will it be all right with everybody if I take them over in the morning and get them recorded?
Okay with it?
They open tomorrow? And if it was one of the shutdown days.
I certainly hope so.
All right, while we're working
Maybe between
the
8 and 9, they're open.
the signatures, let's go on with the agenda here.
I want to thank you all very much on behalf of the Waterboro Land Trust. So,
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you folks for all the patience,
Yeah.
because this has been much longer than what we would have anticipated, but it's done,
A lot of people have done a lot of hard work to get where we're at today.
absolutely.
Well, everybody, we have a meeting tomorrow night, that's why I'd like to get them recorded tomorrow. so that we can announce that at the meeting tomorrow night, and we can finally start being a land trust. We'll have something to,
Actually,
Actually have some questions.
some purpose.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Pick him up in the morning, that's it.
Bye, guys.
okay, moving along, abatements and supplements. A bunch of stuff presented by Jerry here, so I would trust that everybody has read through and viewed, and I think it's summarized pretty well in the spreadsheet that he presented to us. So,
I'll make a motion that we approve the abatements as recommended by our assessor.
okay, and supplements, or just the,
And supplements.
anyone
I'll
like?
second that, sorry.
Moved and seconded to approve all the abatements and supplements as presented by our assessing agent. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Need to sign the book. Next, discuss vote to accept the Parks Ordinance. That was the, we had it last week, the public hearing. Any discussion? Or what is your pleasure with that?
Gordon, give
Need a
it.
motion to accept? I would entertain a motion to accept, I guess.
I'm not sure that if I wrote it, why would I make the motion to accept it?
Absolutely, all the more reason.
Oh, all the more reason? Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that we accept the Parks and Recreation Ordinance as
Amended.
revised and amended by our attorneys.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right. Whole business. We had the discussion last week. I think Matt was pretty, gave a pretty good update on this street light request. We owe Mr. Genrin an answer. And ultimately a vote. I'm not sure where we're...
I will move that, that the request for streetlight be denied based on the report from the fire chief, and I believe our contract deputy was in on that too, that it is indeed dark there. However, there are other parts of town that are equally dark, and it does not rise to being a problem as far as any problem beyond any other particular dark part of town. So that's the essence of the denial, is that it doesn't provide a unique problem.
I would support the denial based on the existing language of the ordinance regarding that, and
So you're seconding the motion?
I'll second his motion.
Any discussion? I think the issue really becomes the ordinance is the ordinance. There's no, above and beyond this particular instance, I'm not sure that there's any drive or need to, which was really, I think, where I was coming from, is should we revisit the ordinance? And I think the answer to that is no at this point, so. Anything else? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, workshops, budget workshop schedule. I think we ditto, everybody dittos the fact that we accomplished a lot last Saturday, and I think think it makes sense that we move forward with an additional day or half-day of work. You know, and again, my recommendation is that we just schedule it for the 6th. Understand that that doesn't necessarily meet with our February 5th completion, but I think it misses by a day, and I think it's well worth the opportunity to take that day and go through everything, and then present that as a final package to the Finance Committee.
And just to, I agree with that. Just after that, when we do that, it goes to the Finance Committee, and then combined, Finance Committee and the Board of Directors would meet with the department heads, and at that opportunity, we would have an opportunity to go down through any revisions that we'd made in the budget with the department heads.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only put to that, and we can discuss this, I would think that based on where we are on Thursday night, we make a determination of whether or not we need or want a department head to come in and meet with us on that Saturday morning.
Yep,
Concerning
thanks.
specifics.
Okay. No, I guess what I was trying to do is to save them from two meetings, one with the Finance Committee or the Board of Selectmen. If we create our budget based on that information and meet with the department heads, and we do have the opportunity for revision because of that meeting with the department head. But with
at
the
least
Finance
just-
Committee.
My only suggestion is we leave open
Yeah.
the possibility that
Absolutely.
we may want a department head in on that Saturday morning, or the Thursday night, which is what, the 4th of February. So,
So we're looking at the 6th
yep,
at like 8 to whatever it takes,
yep. There's a minimum 8 to 12.
8 to 12.
So,
So Nancy, you said you started playing around with some of the suggestions we made. Will we have that for us on Thursday night?
you have it tonight if you want to come by and pick it up,
Oh, thank you.
okay?
Yeah, I just put them on a spreadsheet, on
Well, you can email it to her, right?
yeah, I can email it to you. It was just what we put on the so-called parking lot. And,
Okay.
yeah,
Actually, if we do that, we're fine, because February, there was some time built in for Nancy to be able to put everything together, so we're due to the Finance Committee by February 12th.
Yep.
So we're fine doing it. We'll meet our goal.
Well, that's charter drives us to the 12th,
Yeah.
right? Okay? I'm not sure we need a vote, we just schedule it. and
Well, I'd like to
from there. Wanna
propose
vote?
that the same things take place, that the chair supplies the coffee and donuts.
I brought the coffee, the administrator bought the
Oh.
donuts. okay?
I'll bring the donuts on the 6th.
Okay.
I won't be there.
They'll
We'll-
bring the salmon
We'll
and
bring,
bagels.
we'll bring the, I'll bring the coffee,
as long as there's no sardines.
okay? Other business, warrants and bills for payroll,
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor? Vote discuss, vote, sign minutes of 119.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Pending decisions, committee involvement. See how we're going here with, who's on next week?
EDC, I believe.
Okay,
Just poking at that
Yes,
a little bit.
yep,
It'd be interesting to hear from the planning board, who was scheduled last week, why they didn't attend and present. I mean, I know Frank kind of gave something, but it was just because he was here. I don't believe he planned on being here for that purpose. And part of the charter is that committees will participate in these types of workshops and whatnot. And I think as we're trying to do this committee involvement, it's important that we find out why committees aren't attending.
yep. Is Pam back Monday? Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay. I will put something together with her and we'll at least ask the question. Okay. Training proposal, staff training. The deeds are done finally. Ordinance is done finally. The budget, because this is an ongoing thing. Anything else that we need on the pending decisions? Streetlight deal is gone. All right, any action items out of tonight, other than what we just talked about? I'll work with Pam to see if we can resolve, or at least get an answer. Agenda items for next week.
I think we ought to look again at least have some discussion on the parking situation for February 14th. We just sort of bounced that around like a ping pong ball, and I don't think we really said anything definitively on exactly
Kind of ran out of time.
Yeah, well,
on what areas we were going to restrict.
at the risk of, I think you made, the proposal that you made for what the sign should say on it was fine with me. We don't want to, and I don't take this personally, Tammy Jo, but we don't want to spend 6 meetings determining what the sign should look like, right? So, like the EDC did, and really is a kind of a hit it, Chris.
Gordon
Kind of
sign
ongoing-
looked good.
We've had an ongoing little debate over that, but anyway, yeah, so I would say let's get at least some pricing done on that, but, I think Tuesday
On the
night.
signs?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, they ordered them today, didn't they
Oh, did
already?
Okay, good.
Yeah,
End of story then.
No, what I'm saying is not necessarily about the signs, is what roads are we going to post? Where are we going to restrict it?
So we'll do that
Those-
Tuesday night. Okay.
And maybe we could have Sean, because I know he had an appointment last time. Maybe we could also get Sean in here to do an update. We haven't heard from him in
Yeah, we haven't heard from him since he was.
quite a while.
yeah.
While we're speaking of that, if you give the sheriff a formal request regarding the contract deputy being present that day, he has told me informally that he would make that happen.
Already
But
done.
you already did, okay, very good.
So we'll talk about parking.
Another thing, the transfer committee has a recommendation to the board for,
Does David want to come in and present that, or, I know I left.
I don't know if they're going to write it
I'll
up
have to go
or
pump
David
my-
present it. Let's have David come in and present it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's, or it needs to somehow get officially,
I don't know, it's going to be written in the minutes or,
so we'll talk about that next week, but I would recommend that David just come in and present it.
yeah. Should be on the agenda.
Because it will then cause some further discussion between us and, it changes the structure of how we're dealing with the handling of waste with D&E and whatnot, so we at least need to then tee up some things, but David should make a formal presentation.
What it does is it gets into it,
Yep.
it gets into our pending
Yep,
decisions.
right.
Do we want to have a conversation with the water district?
I think we need based on the unofficial discussion, the comment that was made that the fire, the hydrant rental fee is going to double next year. I think we need a discussion sooner than later with them.
I think next Tuesday would be a great time,
I think
seeing as
that'd
it's
be very
close to wrapping up our
Hearing
budget.
At some point, I'm not sure if it,
Well,
I assumed it was
It's certainly going to be a budget item.
so let's invite the trustees in for a meeting, for an appointment.
If we could back up one step, would it be in the best interest to, having this, the air cleared regarding the tipping fees and the hauling and everything, if we were to send a courtesy letter to those people that it's going to affect, ask them, to attend
No, certainly, I
for
mean,
input?
the only the recommend, and only because John and I were there last night, we know what the recommendation was. And the only person that, at this point, that it will affect is D&E. Certainly, we can invite him to what David is going to present to us, and that's understanding that there is no action will be taken Tuesday night other than a presentation, and then it's up to us as a board to determine whether or not we accept that recommendation, we modify that recommendation, or we do something different, so.
Well, just so the board is aware, and I have it on the record, Dean Waterhouse called me today, and he had some concerns regarding things that people had called and told him about. Now, I don't know what the substance of those conversations were, but they did have a tendency to sort of kindle a little fire under his butt. If one of the statements that he did make was that he would abide by any rules or decisions that the Board of Selectmen made, as long as they were applied equally amongst all the haulers, and that was one of his concerns, was that he did not want to be singled out for something that probably should have a broader scope in application.
And I don't,
That
we
was
don't,
discussed last night.
yeah, I don't think we need to get into the details here tonight, certainly, because I think you need to listen to the proposal. That was certainly not, I think the recommendation puts in place that everybody will be treated equally.
Okay, no, I'm just letting the board know what his concerns were.
So,
That was discussed, and I think that
Wasn't the
people
meeting here
felt
last night?
that
And it was
equal
recorded,
treatment was
correct?
very important.
well, we have a secretary, so Nancy,
I thought the intent of having it in here last night was going
because
to be
we were
video.
using the overhead and that kind of stuff.
Like
All right.
Tebow.
So we will, certainly there's not a problem with inviting Dean to that piece of it. He's more welcome to come anytime anyway, but that would be and that more, all the more reason I think David or someone from the committee should present
Yeah,
what the
Yeah.
vote was from the committee.
yeah.
And then I think we can get in and explain some of those issues. I would, not to plan anything ahead, but my perception is that we as a board will then have to sit with at least the transfer station, or maybe transfer station and any haulers that may be concerned, including D&E, and determine, at least, the pros and cons of what's going to go forward, because ultimately this board will make that decision. It may be what the transfer station recommended, some portion of it, or whatever the case may be, but nothing at this point is cut in stone, other than there is a recommendation coming from the transfer station committee. Okay? Anything else?
Just a note, Dennis, this coming Tuesday is Finance Committee, EDC is the following week.
Okay?
Get that posted on the website so everybody can refer to it.
Okay? And next week, just so everybody knows, is Groundhog Day. So,
So I mean, we're going to be repeating and repeating and repeating?
right, yeah.
Day after it will be-
Items needing signatures, warrants and bills for payroll, the minutes, the deeds have been signed, the abatements and supplements need to be signed, assignment of lease has been signed. Brought my paper. Reminders, tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m., WAB business meeting in the town hall. Tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., land trust meeting at the town hall. 5:30 on Thursday evening, the selectmen will be having a budget workshop here in this room. Thursday at 7 p.m., Old Home Days will be meeting in the town hall. Friday, 9 to 5, York County Community Action will be here for fuel assistance. You must have an appointment. Monday, 6 p.m., Water District Trustees in the Town Hall, and 6 p.m. Here at the Town Hall Annex will be Selectmen's meeting, and reporting will be the Finance Committee.
And it's going to be February 1st, the Transfer Committee is meeting again
I thought it was the
on
8th.
Monday at 6:30.
I thought it was the 8th. That I got a note from today.
Maybe it was the 8th.
It is the
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
the
8th.
8th.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right, I would entertain a motion.
Dennis,
Yes,
what did you say the water trustees are coming in?
we're going to invite you in next week.
When?
How about 6 o'clock?
What day?
Tuesday,
Tuesday night.
Selectmen's
Oh,
meeting.
Tuesday
At the
night?
Selectmen's meeting.
Oh, I see.
All right? I'd entertain a motion. Did you
To
give me
re-
one?
To adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor? Good night.